Guys, welcome in. We are back once again right away after a wild race at Zandvoort last weekend where we saw multiple extremely wet periods that caused a lot of chaos. We now head to Monza, the Temple of Speed for the Italian Grand Prix, Ferrari's home race, and it's always one of my favorites to see. I got to see it live for the first time, not live, but I got to see it happen live last year for the first time on TV, and I fell in love with the track even more than I already do. I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm excited to make our predictions here right now in this video. Our predictions, as always, include biggest positive surprise, biggest disappointment, qualifying top three, our race podium, and last and not least, it is this channel. We are Haas fans here. We make our Haas predictions of the race weekend. Let's go ahead, let's jump on into it. But first, if you are a fan of Formula One, go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. We do predictions before the race weekend. We talk about it afterwards, and we also play a lot of F1 video games. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below, and let me know in the comments below along with me what your predictions are for the Italian Grand Prix this weekend. Let's go ahead, let's jump on into it and start with our biggest positive surprise. All right, starting things off, like I said, with our biggest positive surprise, and I have gone for someone who has had a very up and down year so far, including even not just a week ago that he had a very up and down and a very disappointing into his race. That's right, I have gone for Charles Leclerc, the Ferrari man himself, to have a good weekend. I have to believe it's going to happen at some point, and what better weekend to do it than Ferrari's home race. I think he can make some magic happen. He's definitely not had the year he's expected, but I think when it comes down to it, Monza is a magical place for him. We saw what he did in 2019, and I think in a year like this, when Ferrari really just needs a win, any kind of win, not saying he's going to win the race, but Ferrari just needs a win. They need something to go right. And I think in just the vibes in the air that it might just happen this weekend in Monza. So Charles, congratulations. You are my pick for our biggest positive surprise. Or I apologize because I picked you to be the biggest positive surprise at the home race. So we'll see how it goes, but that's my prediction. What about you? Let me know down below. And if you are new here, it's been a few weekends since we've managed to do this, but I also like to get my community involved, and we, over on Discord, we give you the opportunity to let me know what your predictions are, and I like to include them here as well. They have gone for biggest positive surprise picks of Williams, the team, fair, and an Alex Albon pick. Specifically, they seem very split between that, so we'll just go with an overall pick of Williams, although I'm going to say it might not be quite the surprise to see Williams do well at Monza. Their car seems to be doing very, very well, and with Alex Albon behind the wheel especially, he's done some magical things this year, so we'll see. That is their pick for biggest positive surprise. Moving right along to biggest disappointment, and I think this would be a massive disappointment considering the car that he's in. I have picked Sergio Perez as my biggest disappointment pick for the Italian Grand Prix. I don't know why. Kind of similar to when I chose Charles for biggest positive surprise, I'm picking Checo for biggest disappointment, especially being in the Red Bull at Monza with the DRS that they have. I just don't see how anything other than maybe a win or a P2 could be considered positive. I mean, they are in a car which DRS is so far above everything else. And while Max is driving at literally the top of his game, Checo has been all over the place, and including falling down the order thanks to a speeding in the pit lane penalty at Zandvoort. And so I just don't feel the positive vibes coming out of Checo's camp right now. I know he's got a lot on his plate, and heading to Monza in the best car on the grid surely won't help the nerves at all. So I'm sorry, Checo, but you're my pick for biggest disappointment for the Italian Grand Prix. And as for my community, they have gone for also Sergio Perez and McLaren. I really see McLaren performing very well, so I don't necessarily see that pick, but at the same time, I'm also making picks entirely off of vibes. So who knows, McLaren might have a stinker when it comes to the high-speed sections that they've really seemed to have performed well at recently. And then also Checo, they must be thinking the same thing that I am. So there you go. That's my community's picks for biggest disappointment. Moving on to our qualifying top three, I have gone with a staple at pole position. I'm going to go right there. It seems like it's just the obvious choice to make. I've gone for Max Verstappen to take pole position this weekend at Monza. I have no reason to not pick him. I say it every time, but until someone can reliably take him off of that spot, it's his for the taking. Who knows, unless the Monza curse comes in and strikes early, it's Max's pole to take and Max's win to take at this point. So I have predicted in P2 Charles Leclerc. I think Charles is going to come out and put in a performance worthy of the Ferrari badge in Monza in Italy. And so I think he finishes P2 in qualifying, probably still a well off the pace of Max, but I'm hoping he'll, come out and perform well ahead of the rest of the field. And in P3, I have gone for Lando Norris to round out my qualifying top three. I think this weekend just feels ripe for a McLaren success, and I think Lando has been driving very, very well. Outside of some strange strategy calls at Zandvoort, he was definitely in a position. He qualified in the top three there, and so I see no reason not to keep him in my top three as well. So there you go. Max, Charles, Lando, top three in qualifying around Italy for me. And as for my chat, I'll rattle these off very quickly because they have chosen also Max Verstappen P1. Everyone agrees. I don't think there's really anything to argue when it comes to putting Max on pole. And then going down the order in P2, they have also done a Leclerc and Norris. And then in P3, an Alex Albon and Oscar Piastri. A lot of McLaren hype on one side and not so much on the other. With an Alex Albon top three in qualifying, I don't think I would be that shocked about at all. And now we move on to the finale, Italian Grand Prix podium predictions. Obviously, we're going to start with P1 because obviously I think everyone is thinking the same thing. This is to take the record for most race wins in a row. Max Verstappen is my pick to take that record and move that record to 10 in a row for one driver. An unheard of mark that honestly no one is too surprised about seeing how he's driven so much. Even my mic is shocked at anyone who would pick Max other than Max to take the win this weekend in Italy. Moving down the order into P2, I have predicted Lando Norris to finish P2 and Charles Leclerc to finish P3. I wanted Charles on the podium because I think that's the result they'll get because Ferrari has to make some mistakes somewhere, and Lando obviously will be there to take advantage of that Ferrari blunder, and then they'll have the same podium as the qualifying top three. But at the same time, Ferrari has to make a mistake somewhere still. It is still Ferrari, and Lando is due for a P2, I think. It'll be interesting to see. I'm very excited to see who actually ends up on the podium in Monza. But moving on, let's take a look at my community. They have actually some very wild predictions. We'll start with probably the least wild, where they have a Verstappen win, a Leclerc P2, and a Lewis Hamilton P3. Lewis is due for a very good one, so I could see that happening. I really went back and forth on including Lewis on my podium or qualifying, but I think the other cars are just a little more better suited for Monza. And then on the other side, they are fully banking on that Monza curse to come in good and a Max Verstappen issue one way or another. They have absolutely gone for this prediction, and if they get it right, I think all of us will be raving about this race for years to come. But they have gone for a P3 of Alex Albon, a P2 of Fernando Alonso, and a P1 Lando Norris taking his first win to deny Max the record. If this happens, I think the entirety of the internet and Formula One world will collectively just celebrate more than anything I've ever seen in my entire life. Honestly, I'm here for it. Will it happen? Probably not, but at the same time, you never know. And at the end of the day, that's what these predictions are all about. Last but not least, my personal favorite prediction to make every race weekend, my Haas predictions of the race weekend. I didn't do so hot on my Haas predictions last weekend, so I've really reined in myself and the hope. I think my predictions for Zandvoort were based entirely on coming off of the summer break and excited to see Formula One back. But this week, I'm got to be a lot more realistic. I think, so here are my official predictions, and we'll talk about it. One car into Q2, probably going to be Nico, if I'm being honest. Kevin has been off his game this year. We'll just leave it at that. And I think we get close to a points finish, but just no points. This is a circuit where if Haas ends up kind of like Zandvoort, where if Haas ends up the order, they'll just slowly fall back as time goes on. I don't know what's going on with that car right now, but it's definitely not been improved over the last few rounds, and I think this is going to be no different. So unfortunately, it's going to be a tough weekend for Haas fans, but I will be there no matter what. And then for my community and their final prediction, they actually give some positional predictions. They predict one car DNF, one car P15, and then the other is a P12 and a P15. So a close-ish points finish. Not last, hopefully. I think anything around the 15th to 12th range I would absolutely take at this point in the season, but we'll have to see. But there it is. That's all the predictions for Monza this weekend. What do you think? What are your predictions? Let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, hit that subscribe button, ding dong that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. Hit the like button, and I'll see you after the race weekend is over when we get to look back and, recap the race, talk about the predictions, and see just how we did. But for now, that's going to wrap it up for me here. Enjoy the race weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one.